Hello. Yeah, madam. Yeah, yeah. No, no. Perfect. I have joined and मेरा wife के नाम से है ना? हाँ. Okay. हाँ, she is also joined on a mobile. हाँ, हाँ. Okay. Thank you. Okay, ma'am.
Good evening, dear teachers and all those who have joined us. I heartily welcome you all to the Sage Talk. Before we begin, I would like to introduce you all to the Sage group. So here is an AV.
जी मैम।
She was saying मैंने दोनों को unmute किया.
I cordially welcome speaker of today's Sage Talk, Brigadier Rajesh Joshi. He is a keen mountaineer, an expert in mountain, jungle, counter-terrorism and CBRM warfare. We welcome you, sir. Over to sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's a privilege to talk to all of you here. And that is the teachers. And I'm told some parents have also joined this. So after I spoke to you all and learned that the parents are also joining, the teachers also there. So I restructured my talk a little bit although the basic theme still remains, that is team building. Uh, Before we start, I'll just tell you a little about myself, little more about myself. Uh, I have studied in Belgaum Military School. Belgaum is in Karnataka, and now it is goes by the name of Belagavi. I am from basically from Harda, otherwise, and I studied in the school, Belgaum Military School, from 1972 till 1980. After that, I did a small stint. That is, I studied in SGS ITS Indore for 6 months. And during this time, I cleared my National Defense Academy exam. And I moved to NDA in 1981, January 1981. So, and I got commissioned in December 1984. So my commissioned service till now is about 36 years. And if you count 3 years of 1 year of IMA, 3 years of NDA, and 8 years of school, so it is about nearly 48 years that I have been in this in the uniform. So while we are talking in the army, there's a lot of importance on teams. So basically, I've structured my talk on 3 issues. First is I'll tell you the importance of team building and a team and team building. In the second part, we'll discuss on what are the characteristics of a good team. And in this, we'll discuss the Toby form that I have given you, which probably you all would have solved. And the last part, which I said I had to restructure my talk, it would be more of a talk for the parents and the teachers as to how they need to develop their children for being effective members of a team. So I've also been in Bhopal in the Services Selection Board for 2 years. I've done about 800 interviews or so of all these candidates who come to us, who cleared UPSC exams or through other entries, and who want to join the Indian Army as officers. So I've had solid interaction with these candidates, boys and girls, and a lot of insight into what we need to do as responsible teachers and as responsible parents. So the last part, about last 15 minutes or so, I'll include where I'll give out these points. So, so much about the myself, so much about the topic which I am saying. So now something about the team. Now, first of all, when we talk of team building, there is a commitment from the leadership, which I will explain subsequently. And when we say a team, it is amazing how much a team can accomplish, wherein the credit of the accomplishment goes to the team and not to its individual members. That is what is most important. Now, when this is the importance that we talk of a team, what we must realize. Now, when we talk, what is there in the army when we say a team? Now, a family could be a team. Your school is a team. The Indian Army is a team. Within the Indian Army, we have teams. So while characteristically from management point of view, they say teams are small, should not be more than 10 to 15, and they meet for a particular task. Once the task is accomplished, they spread out. I have a different take. Teams, since I'm from the army, I'll say they are bonded for life. You look at the SAGE team, they are bonded. They are bonded for life. Some of you have worked here for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, probably more. So this is what I would I would request you to look at it from this point of view. Although I will touch about accomplishment of teams for short durations and all that, but I am looking at a more long-term and long-lasting thing. So, whereas, you know, in your institution, let's say, you have a vacancy for a maths teacher or a professor, so you select one. So what I'm trying to say is every person who comes there is a specialized person. He already has a skill, a particular knowledge developed. The army is not so. Here we have soldiers who are villages or anywhere. Generally from the villages, the tough, hardy people. I am from the Garhwal Rifles. So when I say village, my mind goes to Uttarakhand area. So these soldiers come from the hills, those tough areas. Their education is probably 11th, 12th. Some of them earlier when I had joined had not even seen the train. So they come as raw soldiers, as raw human resource, that we'll say, and grooming them into a fighting machine, grooming them into someone who has to protect the country is what our challenge is as army officers. So what I'm trying to say is, if you, in this last about, at least after I have been commissioned in the army for the last 36 years, team building has been part and parcel of our training. Team building has been part and parcel of our any operational task which we have to achieve. You would have seen in my profile, deserts, mountains, jungle warfare, counterinsurgency. Now each is a separate environment. Each requires a separate skill to operate. And for each, we need to prepare. So we don't have so much of specialization in the Indian Army that someone who is in desert gets commissioned there and continues there in the deserts. Or he is in the mountains and continues in the mountains. No, no, no. We don't have such sort of specialization, and we don't intend also. It's not the environmental objective. So we move from desert to mountain to jungles and everywhere. And before each, we have our pre-induction training. We have our various training courses, schedules, for which then we have to train, and accordingly for the next 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever, we work in that environment. So there is a constant change, which is very prevalent in the army. Now, this word change, I have brought it to tell you, this change is very much there in education also. The management of change is a challenge for the teachers, it is a challenge for the students, it is a challenge for the parents. There was a time when we said, okay, school is this, like this. Now you see, times have changed. And you will see in the last 3 months, when we are facing this pandemic, probably again it has changed. So there is a requirement of a large amount of flexibility amongst all the teachers. There is a requirement of understanding that change is inevitable and it will happen. We need to adjust, and especially we, when I say we, it is leaders, teachers, parents, we need to adjust first and then pass it on to the students so that accordingly they adjust to the new environment. So this is the first conceptual issue which I have said, that is the change, the inevitability of change, and how we need to manage the change. The second is values and skills. Now, when I say value, it is laid down by the highest level, the highest leadership, your management. They will lay down the values. And what I say is, when we say value, these are those red lines which are non-negotiable. This is what I mean by values. For example, when you all learned that yes, the speaker coming here is from the army, so what are the thoughts that came to your mind? Generally, when I interact with the people, the thoughts when I interact with my colleagues, when I interact with my college mates, Indore college mates here in Madhya Pradesh, the first thing they say, okay, physical fitness. Or they say he's very punctual. Any party or anywhere he has to attend, he's always there. And हमारा तो यार हम 1 घंटा पहले time बता देते हैं. We reach at our own time. There have been times when I was, as the chief guest, I was told to wait outside because people had not come, because I was there on time. So these are the values which I have ingrained in myself. Indian Army has the value of, they say, the 3 N's, that is Naam, Namak, Nishan. When we say Naam, Namak, Nishan, these are the 3 values which are inviolable. You cannot change them. All operations, the war goes for this. When we fight, the soldier, the officer, everyone knows that in an attack or even in defense, when they are moving ahead, probably 50% may not survive. 60% could be, where casualties are more, could be 70%. There have been cases like that they will not survive. But then what is it that makes this team go ahead? Naam, Namak, Nishan. That is the name, probably not your name, the name of your battalion, the name of your regiment, the name of the Indian Army, the name of your formations, the name of your country. Namak is your loyalty to that organization. And Nishan is the flag. It's very interesting. The other day I was going through one of the videos of an event which was organized in Nalsar. This is Nalsar, it's an institute in Hyderabad, wherein some students were asking Sadhguru that why should we stand up in the national anthem and the national flag? That is their value. And Sadhguru was trying very hard to explain to them that there has to be one thing which brings them all together, which brings the whole nation together. What is that thing? You tell me. So some students were trying very hard to say that, no, it's not the flag. I'll look after the poor people, the downtrodden people, disparity and all that. That could be a thought, or that could be a course of action, but it can't be a value. You tell me, what was the value of Captain Vikram Batra, who was climbing the Tiger Hill to capture Tiger Hill during the Kargil conflict? And he captured it. And he brought down the Pakistan flag and hoisted the Indian flag. That is the value. And it is for that value that we say that whenever there is a national anthem, we need to stand up. Whenever we see the national flag, we need to, pay our respects in whatever form. In army, we are supposed to salute. Some people put their hand on their chest, or some people just stand straight. So this is what I'm trying to say of the value and skills. So this value is laid down by the organization, by your management, as far as your school is concerned. And these values have to be followed, whatever it is. So when we're talking of conceptual issues, I have dwelled on 4 things. 1, that change is inevitable. Secondly, about values. and skills. Skills probably I may not have delved so much, but I will in future. The environment, the future environment that we are seeing, and how we need to go about in management of change. Now, if we see the team management, team building, in this whole gamut of any organizational intervention that we do to improve an organization, the team management, team building is the most inexpensive thing. It is most inexpensive. We have to inculcate it. We have to form teams. And when we say we have to form teams, what is it that I'm looking at in a team? Now, for example, you run 400 meters. You take a particular amount of time. Let's say you take 4 minutes. Now, this same 400 meters is run in an Olympic by, I'm talking about 4 into 400 meter relay race, 4 into 100 meter relay race. It is run by 4 different people who run 100 meters each, and after that 100 meters, they pass on the baton to the next, and the next step continues. For a good team, they reduce the time by nearly 50%. For some people who have just collected together to run that 4 into 100 meters relay race, probably after 100 meters or after 200 meters, someone will drop the baton, he'll pick it up, or probably he'll take more time than a single person would have run it. So that is not a team that I'm looking at. So what I'm trying to say is, while I did mention a family is a team, a school is a team, yes, they are a team. But the caution is, whenever we are using this word team, the start point of this team is a notch higher than a normal collection of people. Now, how is this start point higher? Now is what I talk about your skills. Every person has his own strengths. Every individual has his own weakness, his or her weaknesses. So when you form a team, the aim of this team is that every person should know his or her strengths. Every person should know his or her weaknesses. The team should know the strength and weaknesses of each and every member of the team. They should utilize those strengths to cover the weaknesses of the others, so that what one sees as a front is a strong team. This is what I take it that a team means. And all this without taking individual credit. Without taking individual credit. So this, what I say is, this team, once they are convinced about the values of the organization, once they are convinced about the change that they have to bring in, the change will happen faster. The change will happen in a most inexpensive manner. The change will happen with maximum involvement of the people for whom the change is required, and they themselves will understand the value of the change. Talking of change, when you're doing your human resource management, they always say there has to be the involvement of the people doing the change, otherwise the change does not happen. I'm not for any political party or any religion. but I will just give examples as they occur to me, as a person who has seen through human resource management, who has studied human resource management and experienced this. If you see the change, let's say in India, of toilets, cleanliness. Now, what has happened? The people have been involved. Now, because the people have been involved, the change has happened, and the change is happening faster. Had this involvement not been there, had it only been a top-down approach, the orders are passed and implemented, it doesn't happen. So when we talk of a future environment, please include this point also in the future environment, that it is not a top-down approach which will be successful. It has to be a participative approach. This participative approach is what will make it successful. So when we talk of a team, a participative approach by the team has to work out all these details and go along the path which has been shown. And that is how progress will be made. Now, just to explain the importance of team, and I brought out certain examples in the army, there is a very small 6-minute, 7-minute video which I want to show to all of you. And in that video, I intend for you to realize what a team is and how they would work. Can I have the video, please?
Yeah, sir.
Wednesday, April 1st, 2020, Kerang Sector, Kupwara District, North Kashmir. Heavy snow and a harsh winter had confined army units to bases, but unmanned aerial drones, regularly monitoring the line of control, were sending back a constant stream of images to the command center.
Stop. Zoom those images. See those dots? Looks like it's begun. Get me the coordinates. So, we have images that look like infiltrator movements in the Jamagan area and Kerang Center.
The commanding officer did not hesitate.
Send the 8th Guard Regiment. We need to neutralize the threat immediately.
The same afternoon, the Jat unit found a set of at least 4 to 6 on-the-ground footprints in the snow, not far from the LOC. They followed the trail. They can't have got caught in this heavy snow. Be alert. Far up on the hill, dodging in between the trees, they saw their target. There! A brief firefight ensued around 1300 hours. After which the 5 intruders, who lightened their load, abandoned some of their ammunition bags, and escaped out of sight over the hill into a deep gorge. The terrorists were soon isolated, in the north along the line of control, and in the south along the Shamshabadi ridge. The villages of Aura, Kukadi, Zulhuma, Sapwali, Batpura, Haihama were quickly cordoned off. At dawn on Thursday, April 2nd, troops from the 41st and 57th Rashtriya Rifles joined the operation. Once again establishing contact with the terrorists at about 1630 hours, who returned heavy fire before slipping off one by one, jumping over a ledge. The chase continued, with contact established twice more over the next 2 days. The army soon had the terrorists cornered inside a part of Kupwara's dense Jurhama forest, not far from the Jamagan village. To flush them out, late on the night of Saturday, April 4th, 2 squads of the 4th Parachute Regiment, or a light 4 Para-SF battalion, part of the Indian Special Forces that had previously carried out cross-border surgical strikes after the Uri attack, were deployed via 2 helicopters for a forward staging to the nearest battalion headquarters and from there to Rangpuri, Muguldara, and Green Bag areas of Magar. The aim of the operation was to use the advantage of height, cornering them in a top-down with quadcopter drones giving aerial support. 5 marine paratroopers were airdropped off at a height of 10,000 feet on a hill. The squad was led by Subedar Sandeep Kumar. The commandos followed the train, keeping a slow, cautious pace. And around daybreak on Sunday, April 5th, forward members Subedar Sandeep Kumar, along with paratrooper Amit Kumar and Havaldar Chhatrapal Singh, inadvertently climbed onto a cornice, an overhanging mass of hardened snow at the edge of a mountain precipice, which collapsed under their weight as they went tumbling down into the abyss, falling a full 150 feet into a frozen mountain stream and landed right next to where the terrorists had behind. Despite the soft snow cushioning their fall, later X-rays showed that the fall had broken several bones in their bodies. Though startled, the terrorists had an advantage as they were hiding and well positioned. As the commandos were still trying to gather themselves, the terrorists opened fire. In the ensuing battle, the terrorists got the first advantage and shot at the three commandos, who were barely 6 feet. A battle at point-blank range is highly unusual in encounters, which normally take place from a distance. Havildar Amit Kumar sustained 15 bullet injuries, while Subedar Sanjeev and paratrooper Chhatrapal also took heavy fire. Despite their injuries and being out in the open, somehow they managed to kill 2 of the 5 terrorists before themselves succumbed. Meanwhile, Havildar Ravinder Singh, paratrooper, seeing their comrades under heavy fire, without fearing for their own lives, the slope and into the barrel throw. Together, they managed to take down 2 of the 3 remaining terrorists. The fifth, led from the was later killed by troops from the 8th Jharkhand. Two of the brave injured Indian commandos were airlifted to the military hospital in Srinagar, but unfortunately died that very night. The other 3 had already perished at the battlefield. Let us take a moment to remember our heroes at the border who made the ultimate sacrifice. 4 para-SF battalion consisted of Subedar Sandeep, Himachal Pradesh, paratrooper Balakrishnan, Kuit village, Kulu Valley, Himachal Pradesh, paratrooper Chhatrapal Singh, Chawashri village, Jhunjhunu district, Rajasthan, Havaldar Devendra Singh Rana, Rudraprayag, Uttarakhand, and Havaldar Amit Kumar, Uttarakhand. Every second of the encounter was fortuitously captured by the accompanying quadcopter drones, the footage of which was shown to the entire 4 para HQ, who felt proud that the squad upheld their reputation as brave fighters. Jai Hind! Jai Hind! The martyrs will be posthumously awarded for their bravery. And Operation Ranjori Bihar will go down in the history books as an inspiring lesson for future progress. 1,197 incidents of cross-border firings by Pakistani troops meant to divert the Indian Army's attention as it pushes its infiltrators have already been reported in the first 3 months of 2020, with March alone seeing as many as 411 violations, a big spike from 267 from March of last year. Soon after this incident, another batch of infiltrators killed 5 more army men at Hadwar. Hizbul's Livery, a salute to our heroes at the front, who are forced to pull off spectacular stunts. To keep us safe, they let no intruder escape and bear the full forces the attackers arrive. Subscribe to this book and click on the bell icon to get notifications.
Yeah. So this is the video which I wanted to tell you about this operation. Just want to highlight 2 important things. The first is the mission of the team was to kill those terrorists. They did it. Again, values. 3 of them fell down because of the cornice. It's a ledge. When you're walking, you can't see, there is no support down below and it falls. So that is what is called a cornice. And in snowbound areas, it happens. It's very common. From this side, it looks like a flat ground, and by the time you reach there, it's collapsed under your weight. So those three there, they fought bravely and got martyred. There were two on top who slided down into the battle zone. They knew firing was coming. They knew they may not live. But the values of 4 parachute regiment, the values of the Indian Army, Naam, Namak, Nishan, they knew they had to go to save their comrades in trouble. They knew they had to kill those terrorists. So this is just one example which I tell you of how an operation is fought and how teamwork helps this operation. Go into the Uri strike, where the Indian Army moved in. They spread out, surrounded those people and fired. It's very simple. Now, I just give you one example, wherein if I tell you, all of you, let's meet at DB Mall at so-and-so place at 6 o'clock in the evening. DB Mall, the place is known, the shop is known, whichever shop is there. But I am sure
Sir, wait, I think you are mute. Sir, you are mute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. So what I was about to say is, if you all go to DB Mall, if we say let's meet at so-and-so restaurant and we'll have a party at 6 o'clock, I'm sure there would be 100 phone calls amongst you all just to tie up. Where have you reached? I'm here. Oh, which shop are you? I'm standing in front. Can't you see? मैं तुम्हारे सामने खड़ा हूँ. You know, all these issues. But it doesn't happen like this in enemy territory. It has to be all silent because you are on radio, and radio silence has to be observed. Otherwise, it can be monitored. The surprise may be lost. And it all has to be done as a perfect teamwork. In fact, when we do our commandos and when we do these exercises on raid and all, they always say, stop. Those people who surround those small groups, they are known as stops. So ये stop, इस जगह पे, इस पेड़ के पास 2:15 रात 2:15 पर पहुंच जाएगा. पहुंचने के बाद रेडियो सेट पे सिग्नल देगा. वो we just press the pressel switch, you know, two times or 3 times, depending, whatever the signal is, so that it's a non-communicative, but a signal is there. अगर मुझे वो सिग्नल नहीं मिलता है तो मैं समझूंगा तुम पहुंच गए. That is most important. That is the team. For some reason, let's say the radio communication, because it's all jungles, there's a lot of interference and then you can't communicate. So it is presumed he is there. And on that trust that he is there, that the operation continues. And we haven't failed in the Indian Army. Any of our operations, we haven't failed. So it all goes on trust. So what I'm trying to tell you is, in teamwork, if you heard that song, हम दो हैं और दो को 5 बना दें. It's not that. As far as the army concerned, हम वो हैं जो 2 और 2 को 22 बना दें. So that That is the importance of teamwork. That is the synergy that you get whenever you're working as a team. Now, what about your the small exercise that I had given you, homework for the teachers? Actually, it wasn't a homework. It was something which was an introspection for your own self, wherein you had to write the answers, whatever you felt to those questions, and plot it on that graph. Now, if you see the graph and right from the line of 50 on both sides, if you draw both the lines and intersect it, so there will be a box formed. 4 boxes will be formed, 4 squares will be formed, 4 quadrants will be formed. So the the one on the y-axis, is the that this part I didn't mention in that. First of all, if you see your values chart, the first 2 columns that are there, they are the first 2 columns. They are the task orientation, and the column 3 and column 4 are maintenance orientation. So if you're in the lower first quadrant, the lower quadrant, it would be low task, low skills. If you go vertically up in the upper quadrant, it would be high task. Task orientation is very high, but you lack the maintenance, that is the skills. And similarly on the third and fourth. If you see the third quadrant, that is the one which is diagonally the farthest, that is the most performing quadrant. And as far as possible, your task orientation should match your maintenance orientation as far as possible. If it doesn't, then it means you do need to acquire those skills. You need to acquire, those skills. As far as values are concerned, if your values are at the lower scale, then I think it is a task for the management to rejig the system, to ensure that all of you, all the members of this organization, of Sage School at least, this organization, they understand the values that you intend to put up. So that is where I want to tell you. And the third part is, you need to have a healthy mix of task and maintenance orientation for any team within your school to perform. And when I say any team, again, the change factor comes. Let's say it's your dramatic team or your debate team or some cultural activity team, wherein, there are students change every year, new students come in. Now, all these people have to gel into the values of the school, whatever the values the management has placed. So, so much about the importance of teams. I have given you various examples. Now, if I were to collate all my points as to what are the major points, major takeaways for you all when we talk of team building. So I have collated 12 points. All begin with C, Charlie. So they go under the heading of 12 C's for team building. The first C, I'll just dwell a minute each on each of them. They are all, most of it self-explanatory, but I will contextualize it so that it sinks better in your mind. The first C is clear expectation. Now, when we talk of clear expectation, we talk of clear communications, clear commitment, clear trust, amongst each other, and clear priorities by the management. So these priorities should be there. You can't say do 10 things and do all 10. You'll have to say please prioritize. So they have to, when we say prioritize, it is two things. One is the importance and second is the urgency. So you prioritize by the importance of the task and you prioritize by the urgency of the task. And thereafter you do the task based on the importance and urgency and the priority that has been given by the organization. The second is the context. The second C is the context. When we say the context, first of all, what context is it? It is, I mean, what is the specific task of the team? Does the team understand the task? Does every individual understand where he fits in the overall task and how useful he would be in the overall accomplishment of the task? So this would be the context. The third would be the commitment. The commitment towards the organizational goals, the commitment towards the values, the commitment towards the accomplishment of these goals, the commitment towards one another. Whenever I hear this word commitment, I always remember that famous dialogue of Salman Khan in one of the movies. कि जब मैं commitment कर लेता हूँ, तो मैं अपनी भी नहीं सुनता हूँ. So that is what commitment should be. Once you commit, then there are no excuses. Even you can't give excuses for not accomplishing whatever you have committed. Then is competence. When we say competence is, first of all, a team is formed together. They need to have competencies. If that is lacking, the skills are lacking, then that is a point for the management to upgrade those skills of the individuals. And the team should feel, yes, we together have the competence to accomplish this job. So that confidence also should be there with the team. Then is the charter. Charter is very specific. You have to be very focused, and for being focused, you have to have a charter. For example, I have worked in the United Nations in Sierra Leone, which is in West Africa. Whenever we go and wear the blue berets, we work under a charter. Like when I was in Sierra Leone, the charter was, as per the UN chapter, we have to function under chapter 6. So we knew what chapter 6 was and we were working under that. It's only when they took some Indian army troops, soldiers as hostages, the rebels took those soldiers as hostages. Then we referred to the United Nations about our charter. And the United Nations, they had their assembly in the Security Council, they had their thing. And then our charter was upgraded from chapter 6 to chapter 7. In chapter 7, it says, in the UN charter, it says you can use force. And once this charter went on to chapter 7, and that is when we all, as Indian Army and part of the UN forces, we moved in, we destroyed the rebels, and we brought back all our soldiers, all our troops who were held hostage, all of them, they came back safe. So it is very important to know what your task is, what the focus, so that you can focus on those issues and you don't have to divert. Then is your control. Control is very important. First of all, when we say control is how much control or how much leverage, it's a decision which the management takes. Ideally, if every team member is aware of the values and skills of the management, they are aware of, it is some of the mind of the management, which happens in very good teams. The management just closes its eyes and gives them the task. Independent task. So the team works independently, fully aware what they need to do, and they know in case they take decisions, probably the management also would have taken this decision. So they are in sync with the management without reference to the management. So that is a very excellent team. However, when teams are formed, there is a requirement of control. Firstly, within the team, there has to be a leader, someone whom everyone listens to, although it is participative. Then the management, wherein the team, wherein they feel they need to take certain decisions, probably they may have to refer it to the management. And then the management exercises its control by giving them a solution to those decisions. So all this results in certain timelines, certain communication means, certain a degree of trust. Everything comes into the control part. Then is your collaboration. When we say collaboration, it could be two things. One is collaboration amongst the team members, collaboration amongst various teams. For example, let's say the Indian Space Agency. Now, the whole rocket isn't made here in ISRO. ISRO has various factories or whatever all over. Its organization is split all over India. So each organization is given a task. You will make the command and control system. Another person has said you will make the payload. Another person has said you will make this. And finally, then all is put together and a rocket is made. So this is where the collaboration comes in account. But finally, it is one rocket which is made. And anything which goes wrong, goes wrong. So this is what we mean by collaboration. That is, you should have the flexibility of collaborating with other teams, of respecting the other teams, and having full faith on their tasks. Finally, it is that one rocket which has to go into space. So that has to be kept in mind. Communication, I did mention everyone should be clear. Again, communication could come in various forms, but to be very simplistic, it is communication between the top management right till down. It should be clear. There should be no interference. Whatever is communicated from top, the same communication verbatim should reach down without any shift in words or in values or in priorities. So that part, essential line of communication is what is very important. And then creative innovation. Creativity again is a subject in itself, but yes, creative innovation is a major factor which builds on the success of a team, because a team is formed to improve certain things, to improve a certain system, to improve a certain item. So it is only once the creativity comes in account, it's only then that the thing can improve. And the consequences. That is the last. When we say consequences, if it is the leadership, they should bear the consequences of the decision that they take. If it is the team, they should be, each member of the team who is doing his particular job, he should be mature enough to take the, bear the consequences of his task, of whatever work he has done. Then it also involves the reward and recognition of each person. So this is what it all talks about. And the coordination part, coordination, administrative coordination, coordination between these collaborating team, various teams, cooperation between the management and the team members, and cooperation between the user end also. So all these things comes under the word cooperation. And the cultural change, that is this new product which is being made. What cultural change will it lead to? What are the change factors? How will people adjust to the change? And how is the management of the change which is going to be organized? So in effect, if I have to summarize what I told in this last 10, 12 minutes, is the 12 C's. So one is clear expectations, context, commitment, competence, charter, control, collaboration, communication, creative innovation, consequences, coordination, and cultural change. So these are the 12 points which I did mention. Now I come to the last part. And the last part which I said is the most important. That is, what do I expect from the teachers, the parents, as to how to make their children good team members. Or on the other hand, if I say is as a interviewing officer or as a president of the services selection board, where I was for 2 years or so, how, what are we seeing in that child? How are we assessing that child psychologically and practically by interviewing him, by those GTO tests, by psychological tests? How are we assessing him so that they become good team members? And remember, as far as officers are concerned, the selection procedure is difficult. And we are looking for effective team members. And like I said, as per the values, it is non-negotiable. Anyone, even if he's a 12th class candidate, if he's found weak or wanting in any of these qualities, which I would be telling you just now, individual qualities, he is generally not selected. So basically, I'll be dwelling on 7 qualities that we see. We see more, but as far as the team building part goes, I would be discussing on just 7 qualities, which every pair, and I will give examples also in my interview, how the candidates reacted in my various interviews, and what is the assessment that I get, and whose fault is it. I will tell you that also. And believe me, the most of the times the fault that we see is of the teachers, it is of the parents. First, effective intelligence, EI is what we call. Now, when we say effective intelligence, it is basically the problem solving capability of a person.
Excuse me, sir, only 3 minutes are left.
Yes,
I
yes,
know
yes.
you have so many things. So,
Yeah.
in the last 2-3 minutes, I would like to thank. May I, sir? May I?
Yeah, please, please.
Yeah. Sir,
We'll take this on subsequently.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm so proud to have real hero here in the Sage Talk. We talk a lot about filmy heroes. We see the fight and all those things in film. But today, when you showed us that video, really I had goosebumps. And you people are real heroes. And not only you were hero, you were director also of Real Heroes. So thank you so much, sir, to be here with all of us and enlightening us with the real things that you come across uh, on the border, or you direct, you guide, you make teams, and you enlightened us. You showed us all the values. You told us 12 C's and the importance of Naam, Namak and Nishan. Thank you so much, sir. And I'm thankful to the Remya Shibu madam, who invited a real hero of the country. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to present a digital certificate to you, sir. Thank you, sir. On behalf of Sage Group, I thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure interacting with all the teachers and the parents, and wish you all the very best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. See.